Hey guys and gals, Mike here with Trail 7. I'm really excited today to introduce to you Kicker's new release. This is their powered down-firing sub. Today, we're going to talk to you about the sub, tell you what's included, we're going to show you how to put this together, and show you how to get this installed into your Jeep. All right everyone, let's go ahead and review all of the things that are going to come with the Kicker down-firing sub and some of the items that you're going to pick up for yourself, what tools you're going to need, etc. Right? So starting over on this side, grab yourself a drill, grab a 3/8 drill bit. This is going to be needed to drill through the Firewall grommet, a Phillips screwdriver, a 10mm wrench to remove the battery terminal. You need a 3mm Allen. This is to install the fuse block, and as well as the power connectors onto the power block. Get yourself a wire stripper, wire crimper. You need a few zip ties, a few pieces of Velcro. And we use these male and female T-tap adapters. These are pretty much perfect to splice the wires in if you're going to a factory head unit. So what we'll show you is two different applications. During the Jeep install, we're going to install this to a factory head unit. So we'll use the T-taps, we'll use the speaker wire into the B-pillar. We'll show you. However, you of course can wire this and attach it to an aftermarket head unit. In that case, you're not going to need these clips here. In that case, you're going to use the RCA wires, which we'll build out for you as well. So let's go over what comes with the down-firing sub. These wires here come with it. This is for your base control knob. This is the wire that runs from the sub to the front. This is of course the base control knob, a couple of screws, mounting hardware, your mounting brackets, and then of course this is for your signal wire that plugs into the down-firing sub. Comes with a little bag of hardware as well, a couple of zip ties, etc. The amp kit, which is absolutely necessary and required for the down-firing sub install. This is separate. This is available on our site, available as an add-on. This is going to come with your power wire, your ground wire, your RCA extensions, your fuse block, your power block. It's going to come with extra speaker wire and your amp on wire. Over here we have, this is Kicker's Kissel cable adapter. What this does is this is a conversion adapter from either speaker wire to RCA or from RCA to speaker, depending on which way you're going. I'll show you how that ties into what we're doing here today. And these are Y adapters, so depending on if you're going to an aftermarket head unit, if your aftermarket head unit has one sub out RCA or two, then you may or may not need a Y adapter. And I'll show you that in a second as well. So let's go ahead and put all this together. A little bit of prep work here. Let's get it together so that we're ready just to install it right into the Jeep, right? So first what we're gonna do is, since we are installing this into a stock head unit, then we are going to need the Kissel adapter. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to install the tap connectors. Let's go ahead and pull these apart. We like this type of wire stripper. You can use any kind, of course. Strip a little bit of the wire back. And you're going to attach these connectors onto your wire. And crimp it down. These connectors will not be provided in the kit, so these are something that you're going to need to pick up. But they are readily available at your local hardware store. All right, go ahead and set that aside for now. Let's go ahead and get our power wire prepped. So you'll notice in the power wire, of course, there's the protected side and the unprotected side. The unprotected side is what's going to tie into the power knob here. The protected side, this is what's going to connect to the battery. So labeled on the wire here, you're going to see it says install fuse holder. You're going to cut the wire here. To do this, grab a pair of wire snips. Can you remove that tag? Don't install it on both sides yet. Just go ahead and get the pigtail prepped for you. This side you're gonna need to leave bare so you can slide it through the firewall. We went ahead and prepped this one, went ahead and prepped the other end of it as well, and then we went ahead and prepped the other side of the power wire, and the ground wire is going to need the same prep. So just go ahead and strip off maybe, you know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch or so to expose the strands. Right, so let's show you how to connect this and prep the fuse. You're gonna open up your fuse box here, your fuse holder. There's 2 little rubber grommets. Hang on to those guys. You're gonna use your 3mm and unscrew the screw a little bit. It comes with a little plastic piece inside that'll just fall out. Little rubber protector piece. You need to slide the wire through the grommet first. And then slide it inside. The grommet will then clip over the edge and tighten it down. And of course, give it a little pull, make sure you're good to go. Don't install this wire into the fuse block. You're gonna need to leave this bare so you can slide it through the firewall. But this you can go ahead and set aside. And you can use that once you're ready to get in there. Let's go ahead and prep the power block that's gonna attach to the Kicker down-firing sub. So with your bare side there, go ahead and unscrew these 2 screws. It's labeled plus 12 volt. Go ahead and slide that in there. Tighten it down. Give it a tug, you're good to go. Same thing with the ground. The ground is labeled GND. Go ahead and put that in. That is good to go. Now, for our install here, we are, like I said, wiring this to the stock head unit, which is using the B-pillar speaker wires. We are not gonna need an amp turn on. If you do have an aftermarket head unit, you're gonna need to attach this wire, this blue wire, which is gonna connect to the back of your head unit. This also is gonna connect to the block here. In the middle, there's an REM port. This is gonna strip this back and attach that to there. So everything is prepped, ready to go, ready to install. That is literally the only prep you need now. You'll still use the screw for mounting down the hardware, mounting down the box, drilling through the firewall, the 10mm for the battery, and really that's it, right? So once again, just to recap here what we've prepped your amp kit, we have prepped your wire, which you're going to attach to the stock head unit setup, and this is all pre-terminated already, and this is just ready to connect. So what you're going to use as far as this here is the kit from the down-firing sub. You're going to use the amp kit, which is just the power, ground, the fuse, the RCA extension, and the Kissel adapter. This will not be used because that's if you're doing an aftermarket head unit. So that's it. Let's go ahead and get this thing installed. All right, now that we have everything in the back of the Jeep, we'll get started with the install. And now let's go ahead and install our mounting brackets to the sub. So let's flip this over. And we're gonna use the provided mounting brackets. So that's just simply screwing in each one of these brackets to each corner using the provided short, sharp screws. No need to go so tight with it. It just needs to hold it into place. And this the sub has plenty of weight to it to really, it doesn't need to be, you know, hardcore strapped into it. And the same for the back. We'll go ahead and get these 2 other brackets installed as well. All right, now our brackets are installed. Let's go ahead and flip the sub over. We can slide it into place. And I would recommend not screwing this in yet. Let's go ahead and get all the connections in. Let's go ahead and get it fully secured in, fully connected, and then at the very last step we can come and we can mount it down to the box here. And as you'll see where it sets right behind when this lifts. It doesn't impede with the lifting of the flat piece here. That's where it's gonna sit. Let's go ahead and slide it forward so we can install all of the connectors now. All right, let's go ahead and get all of our wires connected to the sub. So we're gonna attach the harness that comes with the down-firing sub, which is the speaker RCAs. This plugs right into this plug right up here. Get that connected. Go ahead and plug in the bass control wire, which is over here on the left side. Plug it right in. Leave that on top. You can go ahead and attach the RCA harness. This is what comes in the amp kit. There's two colors on the RCA. You have a bright yellow and a black, and that can be treated as left and a right. And on the harness here, you have a gray and a white. The gray is your right and the white is your left. So for here, we're gonna treat the red and the yellow and the white and the black. For the other side of the RCA, we will be connecting the Kissel wire to, which is a separate wire. If you're connecting this to your stock head unit, you're gonna wire the speaker wires in the B pillar, which we're gonna show you how to using the connections. If you're gonna go to an aftermarket head unit, you're not gonna need the Kissel wire. You're gonna simply run the RCAs all the way up into the head unit and plug that in. In addition, if you are going that route with the aftermarket head unit, you're gonna attach the amp on power wire, which we don't have over here, which we did talk about earlier. And that's gonna screw right into the middle of this connection here, and that's gonna follow along with the RCAs. So that'll plug into the back of the aftermarket head unit also. So let's go ahead and line this up where we need to. We're gonna set this aside because we're gonna use that once we get up into the speaker wire termination. And let's go ahead and slide our sub into position. Now what we can do is we can feed the ground wire, just kind of let it hang over here because we're going to reach in the back to grab this to install it, to secure it down. Same thing with the speaker wire. So the speaker wire and the ground wire is going to go on the right side. The power wire and the bass knob are going to go to the left side. So we can leave the power wire and the bass knob. You're just going to throw the power wire over on this side, the bass control knob over on this side as well. All right, now you have your wires pretty much positioned as to where you're going to use them. Let's go ahead and get over to the passenger side back seat where we're going to install the ground, and we're going to pull the RCAs in to tie in to the B pillar speaker wire. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and hook up the ground as well as the speaker wire into the B pillar here. So let's show you how to do that. Let's go ahead and remove this panel. Just pop this piece off here, which you'll see I already pre-wired this. Go ahead and pop this panel off here. And we can just go ahead and set this to the side. I'm going to remove this trim piece down here as well to access the ground bolt that's right behind here. Pop that off, and go ahead and pop it off up here also, because we're going to want to be able to get this out of the way. We're going to run the speaker wire inside this little channel here up into the pillar, and then this will give us the little cavity where we can store the spare wire. So that's out of the way. Next we want to lower the seat and start fishing the wires down from the back up to this area here. All right, we can go ahead and pull this carpeting back here. You might as well pull it back all the way across, because we're going to have to bury the power and the base wire inside here as well. So now that the carpeting is pulled back, we want to open it up a little bit to where we can feed this in. Start with the ground wire. Just go ahead and feed it through a little bit. I'll reach underneath and grab the rest of it. And the same with the RCA wire. If you want to go ahead and unravel it, and then just pull the one end through individually. So now we can lift the seat about halfway. And underneath here, we can lift the carpet up out of the way, and we can grab both of the wires and just pulling them all through. Keep pulling the RCAs all the way through. You can bury it under the carpet here. So I'm going to tuck this up underneath here. I'm going to pull this wire up. I'm going to wrap this around the carpeting. Okay, so this is the ground screw that we're going to go onto. So you can go ahead and bring both speaker wire and the ground wire over. You're going to use your 10 millimeter to unscrew this bolt here that's on top. Bolt removed. Go ahead and take your ground and put that right over there and just tighten that down. There you go, it's grounded. All right, with the ground connected, go ahead and just take the speaker wire, just go ahead and continue that up the pathway there. We're gonna zip tie all of this together and we're gonna lay it inside the channel here like I said earlier. So let's go ahead and attach the provided Kissel wire, assuming that you're gonna go to the stock head unit. If that's the case, then you're gonna tie into the B pillar speaker wire that's connecting to the soundbar speakers. So go ahead and connect your Kissel wire to your RCA wires. If you remember from back there, our yellow RCA connector was to our gray wire. So that's going to be to the gray one here. So go ahead and connect that. And the black RCA connector is to the white wire. Just go ahead and connect that. We've already done this type of wiring in a different Jeep, in a Jeep Gladiator, which is the same wiring. Just for reference, the Jeep JK Wranglers, the Jeep JL Wranglers, and the Jeep JT Gladiators are all the same speaker wiring. So you can actually install this sub in the JK as well, if you're interested. We're gonna jump back to the previous install right here, just so you can see how we did the wiring. So these wires will come taped behind here a little bit. So there's a little piece of tape that holds this on. You wanna remove that tape to expose this group of wiring here. Within that wiring, there are these two pairs right here, which I'll go over the colors for you. The green-gray is the positive, which is here, and the gray dark green is the negative here on my thumb, and then the dark green green is the positive over here, my pointer finger, and the dark green gray is the negative down here with my pointer finger. All right, so let's go ahead and walk you through how to attach the connectors into which wires. So we're gonna go ahead and show you how to connect this, how to attach this to the wire. This is the wire that's going to be inside of your Jeep. What you're gonna do for the T-tap though, that we'll provide to you, there's these little blades on here, these little metal blades, that the wire is gonna sit in between those little grooves. So once the wire's in between those grooves, you're gonna close the top on it. You should hear it button down a little bit, a little tiny snap, and then use your pliers to squeeze down there a little bit firmer. You don't need to crush it, but you do want to push down in there. I heard another snap down. You do want to make sure that it is firmly pressed down. All right, what this is going to do is this is going to pierce the wire, so that way when you attach the male side that we provide connected to the wiring, it's going to complete your circuit connection there. In order to connect that side of it, a key important part here is, as you can see, this is the female end and this is the male end. Inside of this plastic piece is a little metal blade, and you want that metal blade to slide inside of this slot right here. So if you can put it on here and you can slide it in. And if what's going to happen here is a good example of what you don't want to happen. So I've slid this in, and if you can see through the plastic, that metal piece did not go into the center where it should. So right now there is no connectivity. So if you can see that, it is not slid in. So if that happens to you, pull it out. Just move that little metal piece to where it's in the center. If you can see there, it's in the center of the plastic trim. And now realign it to where it lines up. Slide it in, push it together, and check both sides to make sure that the metal blade is not on the outside. The metal blade has slid inside, and now this wire is connected to this wire. Now we're ready to go ahead and get started with connecting the wires. I'd recommend marking them positive and positive just like I did here. It doesn't matter once we connect which one goes to which as far as whether it's the gray or the white, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So you go ahead and just grab both of the wire pairs now, and we can start with the gray. It doesn't matter if you start with the white, but for our sake, let's go ahead and start with the gray. What does matter though is that we do match up positive to positive. So the negative, the identifier, is the black stripe on the gray cable. So this one has the black stripe on the gray wire. That's going to be your negative. This one is just a gray wire with no markings on it. That's your positive. So let's go ahead and match a positive with the positive. Slide that in. And let's confirm that the blades went all the way through, which it did. And on that same pair, take the negative, which is the gray wire with the black stripe. And again, make sure that the blade isn't sticking. Make sure you can't see the blade on either side, which means it's inside of the connector there. So that's one side of it. Let's do the same with the other side. So let's take the white connector and identify the negative is the wire with the black stripe. The all white wire is the positive. And go ahead and connect that to the positive identifier. Make sure that the blade went through, which it did. And now our negative, just to confirm, is our white wire with the black stripe. And there isn't an identifier on here, so that must be our negative. And that's it. All right, so now our speaker wires are connected to the B-pillar stock speakers, and let's go ahead and just clean up our wires and go ahead and put them in the channel here, just like we talked about. I have a couple of zip ties, and let's go ahead and clean it up. Yeah. Put this piece back in here. Without pinching our speaker wires. And let's get this back in here. All right, our ground is completed. Our speaker wires are tapped into. We're gonna go ahead and move onto that side to run our power and our bass control knob up to the front. All right, so now we're on the driver's side, and similar to the passenger side with the speaker wire and the ground wire, we're gonna grab the power wire and the bass knob wire, and we're gonna run those just to say, again, similar to that side, underneath the carpet, underneath the seat here, and along the trim. I do have a trim tool, which I don't need to remove any of the trim, but I do like to use this to help to lift the trim pieces so I can tuck the wire along the way. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to lift this carpet up and take the bass control wire and kind of tuck that underneath so we can reach around and grab it. And same thing with the power wire. It'd be helpful to extend that out a little bit. Kind of stick that down there too. And the same thing here. We're going to lift this up halfway so I can drop down here and I can reach underneath. I can grab the bass control wire, pull that out, and I can grab the power wire. I can go ahead and pull this out too. I'm going to pull all of it out and then tuck it along the way. So one thing to note here is the power wire that's provided is just enough to reach from the back location there, wrapped around the side here, up the engine compartment, over to the battery on the driver's side. So you really need to make sure that you are taking advantage of all of the lack of slack. So pull that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to toss the wire up to the front through the side here, because I'm just going to bury it in the trim along the way. So we can push that up there. Same thing with the base control wire. You can just kind of flip it up front there. We can now push the seat back, and the rest is just burying the wire underneath the carpeting here. All right, now we're up front in the driver's seat. We're gonna go ahead and continue on with our wire passaging, power and base control wire, just along the trim there. Let's go ahead and tackle the base control knob. As you can see, there's plenty of wire. The area that we chose is right here, which is by the left knee. You can put this thing anywhere that you see fit for it. This is the best area, the easiest access that we found. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is remove this panel here. As you can see, I have the door open out of the way, and I'm gonna tie up the access slack here. As you can see, up in here, there's a little cavity that this can slide right down into. In between the trim, you let that piece hang over there. You go in here and replace the trim just to see how it's going to sit. You pull this right along top, kind of tuck it in on the top there. Go ahead and connect the base control. And find the spot that works best for you. Right, so does this work for you? Does this work best for you? Make sure it's going to clear the door when it closes. This is what we found to be the best spot. So I'm good with that. I'm happy with that spot. I'm going to remove the Velcro. So there you go. And it's Velcroed on there. It's not permanent. If you need to remove that, if you want to remove that later on, you can. If you like that spot, great. If you don't like that spot, you can always pick another spot later on. When you're sitting in the seat, you can't notice the wire that's underneath it. As we did before, we put the little white dot on there so you can see the volume control of the base. I think it works just fine. All right, so now we're obviously in the engine compartment, and there's a fire stop here where we're going to drill through. There's a couple different ways to do this. If you watch a Gladiator video where we installed the hideaway sub in the back, we removed that little plug there, drilled through it, reinstalled the plug. I just find it easier, honestly, to get yourself a drill bit. This is a 3/8 drill because the power wire for the down-firing sub is an 8 gauge. It needs to be a little bit thicker. I just find that easier, right? So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm going to show you where it's at. There's definitely plenty enough room here to be able to stick the drill upside down and drill the hole. It's pretty easy. So this is the fire stop. All right, let's go ahead and I'll show you how to drill the hole and how easily this fits underneath there. You just get that lined up and zap it right through. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and push the wire through on the inside. Again, since we put a 3/8 hole in there, I don't need to use a wire fish or anything like that. I can literally just get underneath there and I can just push it through. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna slide this through the fire stop that we drilled a hole in. I'm gonna grab this and just pull it on out. Just make sure that I got enough out that's gonna reach the other side, and it is. That's perfect, which is pretty much all of the wire. So like I said, they made it to where this harness is perfect. So now we're going to feed this over. I'm gonna go underneath here. I'm gonna go underneath here. Of course, don't attach the inline fuse yet, so you can fish all this over first. Then I'm gonna zip tie these pieces onto here. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and prep the inline fuse onto the wire. So you can unscrew this Allen bolt here. It's a 3mm Allen. Put your rubber grommet over your end there. And clean your wires up and insert them into the end. And go ahead and tighten down your 3mm Allen bolt. And just make sure it's metal on metal, that the rubber coating isn't in the way of the connection there. You can just take these rubber grommets and slide them into place, like so. You can slide this grommet into place, like so. And then when you slide this over here, it'll go right on top of the grommets. All right, now go ahead and toss this over to the other side. And we can go connect that to the battery terminal now. But before we do that, since we drilled that hole in there, I do like to cover the hole with a little bit of silicone. Just stops the water, obviously. Water's gonna run down along the cabling and could go into the foot area. To prevent that from happening, I like to seal it up with a little bit of silicone. So take a little silicone and do this after you've secured the wire, so that way it doesn't pull on it. So it has plenty of room to dry and do what it's supposed to do. All right, now we're ready for the power. This is the last pit in here. Let's go ahead and wipe this area down right here, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mount the inline fuse to this spot right here. Let's go ahead and get it connected first. With your 10mm, go ahead and remove this bolt here. Go ahead and attach that on there. I'm going to remove the sticky for the Velcro, and I'm just going to attach it right there, just like so. That wire can go underneath there, that can go there. You can put our cover back on, and our power is done. All right, obviously I'm in the back of the Jeep. I'm gonna go ahead and finish our last step here, which is just tucking the wires back behind the power wires that we ran, and then screwing the sub down to the floor here. So pretty simple. The wires just kind of, you know, landed in the spot they needed to land in anyway. Just tuck the carpeting back in. You can manage the wires over here how you see fit. I'm just gonna kind of leave them like that. That way you have access to the RCA connections if need be. For point of reference, I tried to slide the sub back as far as possible while keeping the brackets on this platform here. There's plenty of room when the seats are up, so that way you still have a little bit of space in between there, and there's plenty of room here so you can still lift this panel without the sub getting in the way. This is actually a perfect spot for it. So the provided screws, let's just go ahead and screw them in. Again, it's your choice if you screw it in or not. The sub does have a good amount of weight to it. All right, there we have it. The Kicker down-firing sub is completely installed in this Jeep JL Wrangler. Super easy install. Everything comes with the kits that are provided, that are available to you. Let's go ahead and hear what this thing sounds like. All right, everybody. The Kicker's down-firing sub has been installed in the Jeep JL. Now the only thing left to do is to test it out, and let's hear what it sounds like. Now look, I know it's hard to hear over, over video on how this thing sounds, but it sounds amazing, okay? This JL has a stock head unit. We wired this to the speaker wires in the B-pillar. This Jeep also does happen to have Trail 7's upgraded kicker pods. All of this together, this Jeep sounds amazing. So if you'd like to pick up your down-firing sub from Trail 7, please visit us at www.trail7.com. And until next time, see you on the trails.